Okay? 15 staff members, that's total.
Wow.
14 are from the University of Cairo. I'm an academician. I have as you said, I have a PhD. I've taught college for many years. You won't find that in any other school in the world that would hire the same people with the exact same background, the exact same experience, and put them in the same school, because what breadth of knowledge do they have to offer? None. They have exactly the same background and the same training. It's suicidal for a school to do that.
Wow.
But this is what I found at McMaster. Now, when these people left the school, that once again is primarily questionably jihadi at the upper levels. When they left the school, according to John Loftus, a former federal prosecutor, 180 pounds of nuclear material was missing. Mm-hmm. Now, they would still be up there, I believe, if it were not for the fact that that laptop was discovered and a bolo, be on the lookout for, was issued to every newspaper throughout the world. So Adnan's picture appeared everywhere, and Amir al-Mati. When these pictures were appearing, these guys were in Hamilton, Ontario. They left the school, and when they left, as I said, according to federal prosecutors, our federal prosecutors, 180 pounds of nuclear material was missing. It takes 40 pounds to make a nuclear weapon that's capable of that's equivalent to the bomb that was used at Hiroshima. 40 pounds. They took 180 pounds.
That's 4.5 bombs.
When I talked to Hamid Mir, who's you met Hamid, Paul, and Jamie up at in Las Vegas, the only journalist to interview bin Laden in the wake of 9/11.
Right.
Hamid Mir said, I asked him about the situation at McMaster University. This is bin Laden's, by the way, his official biographer. And he's Hamid Mir is a very close friend of mine. I mean, I love the guy. But when I asked Mir about the situation at McMaster University, he said, oh yes, he said, Anas al-Libi was up there. He said, I talked to Anas al-Libi. He was up there, and he helped them steal the 180 pounds. He hadn't heard about that from, he just came out and declared that. Okay, so I decide it's time to go up to McMaster University. I go up to McMaster University, and I visit the reactor. The reactor, the buildings adjacent to the reactor all have cameras, so that nobody can get in. Mm-hmm. Paul and Jamie, I was walking around that reactor, waving at the camera. Hi, guys, and I was acting like a wise guy, and I was running around acting like a clown. Nobody came out. Nobody came out. I walked through the door. There was a receptionist to my left. They said no entrance, no trespassing. Warning, reactor on. I walked through the doors, just opened them, went up to the second floor, walked over the bridge, and into the reactor. Now, you could say, this sounds preposterous that he could walk into a reactor that's supposed to be secure. Well, my friend, Sean, accompanied me, went up there really a couple weeks later. Go to page 12. Sean Michaels. And that's Sean in the reactor at McMaster. Yeah, this is incredible. Look at it behind him. It says reactor on. Now, I mean, you could just go in there and take what you wanted. What's interesting is in the corridors of where the reactor is, they had radioactive isotopes, on trays. You could have taken them and put them in your briefcase and walked out. Okay, so I find out that at McMaster University, the faculty is predominantly Islamic, of a very questionable nature. The security is nil, right? I get this report of 180 pounds missing. I meet with the Canadian officials. Wait until you hear this. I meet with the Canadian officials, and they said, oh, the faculty at McMaster is radical. They have these secret meetings once a week, every Wednesday, where they're planning for the jihad. I'm getting this from the Canadian government.
Oh, my.
Okay. Now, being a journalist and gathering this information and being a Christian and getting this information, what can you do? What should you do? What are you obliged to do? Well, you're obliged to shout it from the rooftops and to proclaim it to the brethren, which I did on national media. I proclaimed that on, the George Norrie show, a host of other shows that are national shows. Well, McMaster, and I appeared on, from my home, they usually call and have telephone interviews,
Yes.
You know how they are. But in any case, a host of Canadian stations called me, and they said, what's the situation about McMaster? And I said, it's a hive for jihadis. And I said, I'll give you the proof. And I gave them the same situation that I'm telling you right now. Okay, now I get word from McMaster University. They said, Williams, you're creating a lot of problems for us up here. The media is starting to pick this up, and we're going to sue you. And we're going to sue you under Canadian law, and we're going to take everything you have, unless you sign this declaration stating that what you said and what you have declared about us is false. I said, I cannot do that. I said, what I'm saying about you is true. So they're suing me for $28 million in Canada under Canadian law. Now, people here might think, oh, this is preposterous. Well, guess what? We are subjected, thanks to NAFTA and globalism, to the laws of... We could be tried in Mexico under Mexican law. The Canadians right now have access to all my assets. All of my assets, for telling the truth. And my publisher, immediately when they were threatened with a suit, said, oh, we're sorry. We're sorry we published that because we want you to go away. Well, when they came to me and they said, will you retract? I said, not on your life. But believe me, by taking that position, well, first of all, you have to be a Christian to take that position. Yeah. Secondly, you have to be Irish. You do. You have to like a fight, and I love a fight. And so I wouldn't go away. But that's what I'm involved in right now. And, thank God for people like Michael Savage, the talk show host. When I got these horrendous bills, he sent me $15,000. Wow. I mean, just out of the goodness of his heart. Let me tell you another story. I went to Christian broadcasters, not this wonderful group, not Al and Paul and this one, but I went to major Christian broadcasters, including the American Center for Law and Justice. I told them what was happening to me. And they said, oh, we can see that what's happening to you is terrible. But guess what? We don't want to get involved. So that is the Christian community for you, and that's the situation with journalism. So why are you not getting the news? Because if you proclaim the truth anymore, you will be sued. It's jihadi litigation, and you have to have a stomach for it.
What's the connection?
Wow.
I read in your book among organized crime and illegal immigrants and Al-Qaeda.
Oh, man.
How are they connected?
Oh, man, Paul. The number one, when I was working with the FBI, and I was a key witness in many of these trials, in the old days, the leading crime family was the Italian mafia. They controlled what came into the harbors, what came into the airports. They controlled the drugs. They controlled the arms. They controlled the prostitution. They controlled, everything. But these guys went legit. Not really legit, but quasi-legit. They entered the garbage business. It's very, unregulated. But in any case, they could make much more money on garbage than they could on running arms or running women. So they went quasi-legit. And the number one criminal organization in the United States right now, number one, and I want everyone here to verify this on their own computer, is the Albanian Mafia. The Albanians control the ports of entry.
Really?
Yes. As the old Italian Mafia did, like you saw in many television programs and movies, the Albanians control the freight coming into the airports, the freight coming into the ports of call. They control all the rackets that the old crime families, Italian crime families.
In our country.
Yeah, in our country.
The USA.
Go to the FBI website. Number one criminal organization, crime family in the United States is the Albanian Mafia. These guys are Muslims, radical Muslims.
Oh, they are. Okay.
So that's one tie. Secondly, after the Waziristan summit in 2004, several al-Qaeda operatives were taken into custody, including Sharif al-Masri. And They all, every one of them. Now, one was taken into custody in Brooklyn. One was taken into custody in Karachi, Pakistan. One was taken into custody in Great Britain. And they all gave the same evidence, the exact same evidence. They weren't in communication with one another. They said that nuclear weapons have been forward deployed from the port of Karachi to Mexico for transport over the U.S. border by MS-13, Mare Salvatrucha. And they said that's already been accomplished.
Wow.
So the nukes are here.
That was going to be my next question. You do believe that there are some nuclear devices in our country?
Paul, what I say and what I believe doesn't matter. Okay. One hill of beans.
Right.
What has been documented, this has been documented. You go to the Jerusalem Post, you go to BBC, you go to the London Times, it's documented. The Israelis believe that 24 nukes are here.
24?
24. Now, that's the good news. The Saudis say, oh no, 48 at least are already here. Mir, and we just saw his picture, Hamid Mir traced 3 of them himself. Gave me the serial numbers. When he was in this country, and you met him, he had the serial numbers, he had the dock numbers from, one was transported from Russia to Italy. He followed that thing. He had the bill of the laden bills, and he had he had the serial numbers, as I said before, of the weapon. He called up when he was here, he contacted the FBI. This is a guy that meets with bin Laden on a regular basis. You can see him. He's his biographer. He's the only journalist who has met with bin Laden and Zawahiri in the wake of 9/11. He's here calling the FBI with information. These idiots don't even call him back. And that's the truth. Don't even call him back.
Why?
Because the FBI right now, in the old days, when I work with people in the FBI who are wonderful, Paul, wonderful. A guy by the name of Vince McGraw, who was in charge of organized crime, and first of all, he was a force to contend with. He was about 6'6", and he could twist me like a pretzel, and I'm not that easy to twist. And these guys were primarily lawyers and accountants. Right now, unfortunately, the people that we are recruiting in the FBI are people who are politically correct, people who are bureaucrats, people who serve the system, but they aren't people who would kick down a door, and they're not people who would go into a place with a Tommy gun.
Changed like everything else has.
Right.